Hi. This is mostly just going to be audio, but I just thought I would put in a stand-in of me from a client who lives in Japan who made this artwork of me that I thought was pretty amazing. And just thinking about coincidences, quote unquote, and how they are happening right now and people don't pay attention, and then it tends to cause more problems than it's worth. And I was thinking of this guy who had a huge impact on me, Willy Whitefeather. This is part of a packet that he sent me way back in, I guess it was 2010, and his words are still so prophetic to me. They really made a lot of sense. And he talks about how, I'm just going to go to audio, but he talks about how we are in the fifth age. He's a Native American who lives in a cabin in the middle of Grants Pass, Oregon, and when he wrote me, he would talk about like how he had just built a bear trap, that kind of thing, and he only sends packets, like mail packets, to people. He doesn't go on the internet or anything, which I think is a pretty smart move. But he talks about coincidences and seemingly unrelated things happening in the time of the fifth age, and how we don't pay attention to them, and then it causes more problems than it's worth. And that when we figure that out, that there's no such thing as coincidences, that we see the symbolism in things, in our actions, our feelings, our words, our patterns, how patterns come back to haunt us if we choose to ignore them, how we choose to ignore how our inner feelings are and how that might affect the outer world. And it's really been coming to a hilt lately with me, with things like the Mandela Effect and having clients who are deeply telekinetic, and they affect electronics, and it's directly connected to their emotional state and how they are 100% of the time deeply traumatized, emotionally neglected, emotionally abused, adult children of alcoholics. It's the whole spectrum, sexually abused, you name it. And 100% of the time they are deeply psychic individuals who are unconscious of the patterns that they come from. And it's very upsetting to me. It's anxiety producing because I pick up on their anxiety because I'm an empath. I feel so deeply other people's feelings. They feel so deeply other people's feelings. When Trump won the election, I literally, and I've mentioned this briefly online, but I didn't say this in a video, I don't think, but I felt this wave of anxiety from millions and millions and millions of people, and it literally crippled me for several days. I couldn't move. I couldn't leave my bed. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed with anxiety for several days, and it wasn't me. It was the collective anxiety of others. And one of the things that Willie taught me, and it just increasingly makes so much sense, is to pay attention to the patterns and to pay attention to the cycles and to honor them and to honor our inner patterns and to bring essentially what he was saying from his tradition of folklore and symbolism and signs and portents was really to pay attention to your inner life. Because if you don't pay attention to your inner life, if you are unconscious about your inner life, it's going to manifest in your outer life, and it's not going to be pretty. 100% of the time almost, it's not going to be pretty. So I've noticed as I'm making this video, there's a hurricane that's just come down in the Caribbean, and it's heading towards Florida as I speak, with 185 mile an hour winds, called Irma, and we've just experienced Hurricane Harvey. And I made a blog post recently, and I don't think I need to leave a link to it because I don't know what this is. And I thought initially, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I wonder if it's connected to this collective feeling that people have. And just go with me on this. This is obviously thoroughly unscientific, but on a symbolic internal level, I almost feel like the intensity of these weather patterns, yes, of course, it could be connected to climate change. It could be connected to any number of things. But I feel like the intensity of it could possibly, because of what I've seen from the telekinetic abilities of my clients over and over again, where they literally shut down the Skype session, or this, I will, and I've timed this. I will notice the exact moment I bring up a subject that is deeply troubling for them or a trigger moment for them, and it will literally shut out the video screen. Which is funny because I'm not showing a video, but I'm just on audio. But I've seen this so many times with so many stressful situations with my clients. They will literally shut down the video conferencing software with their anxiety. And this has happened to me so much over the last 8-9 years I've been doing this with people. And it's, of course, as I said before, it's thoroughly unscientific, but I really believe we are such psychic creatures that we can form and shape our very physical realities by how we feel inside. We can have a direct impact on inanimate objects and even radio waves and digital equipment and various forms of technology. And if we are feeling chaotic, like much of the world is right now, on the brink of, well, we aren't on the brink of nuclear war. I don't believe we're on the brink of nuclear war, but there's a lot of fear-mongering going on and an escalation of extreme polarization and extreme dualistic mindsets. And there's a lot of, because of that, there's a lot of panic and people biting. They're taking the bait and falling into these dialectical, what my guides call insults to their soul, that they're taking the bait and falling into this. And then there was this other thing that I was talking about in my Bases interview in 2012, where I talked about being afraid of having a race war happen, that there was a talk of a race war that had been designed by social engineers in military intelligence, and possibly the intelligence industrial complex, to control people through fear. It's just a last-ditch effort. And then you have the Native Americans talking about how we're in the fifth age right now, and we went into it, he said in 2013, or thereabouts, sort of after 2012. I certainly did feel something happen, an energy shift, on December 21st, 2012, believe it or not. I really did. And then I felt another energy shift happen, and I started having all these Mandela effects happen in, this is very interesting, September 23rd, 2015, when I believe CERN started up. And CERN started doing all these experiments, and they jokingly put all these preventative articles in the mass media, in the mainstream media, in the lamestream media, talking about how it was ridiculous to think that CERN was going to create black holes and so forth. And honestly, I think there is some trickster science element to CERN being started up that has to do with chaos magician atheists in CERN, but that gets into deep esoteric stuff that may or may not have its place here. But all of these things are colliding. And then on top of that, last year I was getting information that we are in the time of the apocalypse. And I'm not attached to this, but it is interesting, all these patterns, these signs and patterns that Willy Whitefeather was so wise about and sent me all these beautiful, cute little packets in September 2010. And, or he was sending it. And then this is sort of like what he sends. I just want to show you really quickly, like cause and effect of things. Wait, I don't even know if you can see this, but these beautiful sort of almost comic book or coloring book type graphics that he makes. And it just, he talks about how in the fifth world, and there's a connection to color, and I don't know if he knew this, but the colors correspond to different ages. So he says the the color red is connected to the first stage, yellow connected to the second world, and so on. Green, blue, purple. And it's interesting because it seems to correspond with the chakra system. And as I've stated before, it seems to correspond to like the heat index on a Kelvin heat scale. And the higher up you go, the more intense the heat gets. And so now we're in the fifth age with all this intensity, with earthquakes and hurricanes and natural disasters and tsunamis. And we're in what's called the purple sky world. So purple is the crown chakra. And of course there's going to be people resisting letting go all they know in favor of something new. And all of the hurts and wounds are going to come up. And that's precisely exactly what I've experiencing on a parallel level here with my clients, in that we are slaying the dragon together, but it's not before they go through some heavy psychic interference. And I mean that mentally as well as, yes, psychically. They activate, in an ironic sense, through a lot of their trauma. And they are not yet understanding cause and effect and the patterns and the cycles inside of themselves. And so when they don't do that, they're like a tornado. They're like a natural disaster. And he talks about earthquakes happening on one side of the world, and then something else happens 65 years later that's connected, although we don't see it because we're not connected to that wheel of time the way the ancients were, the way the wise men were and wise women. But he sees it. He's a wise man. And he kind of, in a very powerful, short, sharp, shock way, with the several little mail packets he sent me that blew my mind. And I've only just been able to find this one recently. I have a couple more lying around, but I realized at the time it was important, but I didn't realize how important until I started going through this process of cycles myself. I don't even know if this guy is alive anymore. I don't even think he has a telephone. But he had such a profound impact on me, and that cycle is coming back now in September of 2017 as I talk about this. So it's and then also one thing about September 23rd, 2017 that they're talking about is that the planet X, Nibiru, is supposed to crash into the Earth on September 23rd, which is the exact anniversary, the 2-year anniversary of CERN being started up. And they had all those weird ceremonies when they started up CERN, which a lot of conspiracy theorists thought were like this weird processional of satanic whatever. But what they don't realize is it's underground in Switzerland, and there's a lot of those kinds of processionals that happen in Europe to chase away the demons, to open up a protective atmosphere and chase away the demons. And if you see this in Switzerland, you'll see these street parades. You'll see it in China with dragon dances to bring in new luck during the new year. And so there's that understanding of ancient pagan culture and ancient culture on an anthropological level. And I want to get more into that as well, talking about national dress and how national dress gives away sort of this fascination with early man and early woman, possibly having interactions with UFOs. And again, that goes into cycles and patterns. And so I feel like this fifth world that we're in now, the purple sky fifth world, it's up to us. We are the manifestors. We really are. And the earthquakes and the sea changes and the way we respond to our external reality is how we feel about ourselves on our internal reality. So if we feel out of control in our internal reality, that is going to manifest in the outside world in very dramatic ways. And if you are unaware of those patterns and cycles, you will not see it or make that connection, but it is there. It really is. It's not insanity. You are in sanity when you see the cycles and patterns. Okay, I'm going to cut this off because I don't know if the video is going to do that, but I think I'm going to add a very brief little additional video after this. Thanks for bearing with me.